Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday. Nick here with Smitty to help you break down tonight's NBA DFS main slates on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Obviously, here with Occupy Sports. As always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, helps us get more free content like this out to you on a regular basis. Got a nice little slate tonight. I believe it's a TNT slate, which usually means we got a few competitive games. 5 game slate starting at 7 p.m., and we do have a late game at 10 p.m. Smitty, we got some value, kind of a weird one so far, but how you feeling about this slate overall?
Yeah, I think it seems like a decent slate. Like you said, we get one pretty good game. I think that Houston Memphis game should be pretty solid. And
Hmm.
then otherwise, it still seems like a pretty decent slate.
Yeah, man, I tend to agree. I mean, hopefully we get a little bit more value. I think there's already some interesting spots to talk about. But yeah, we got time to go game by game today, which means we also probably have time for the chat. Shouts out Heath here. Jerry, just saying what's up. Good evening. Another good night for Jerry last night. Love to hear it, man. Mari saying what's up. Appreciate you being here, Mari. Savage Styles becoming a regular as well. Great to see you, Savage Unicorn. Always happy to see Unicorn Love. But yeah, let's get into this first game here, man. At 7 p.m., there are 2 games, but we're going to start with the Hawks taking on the Cavs. I believe it is a back-to-back for the Cavs, so maybe I'm hoping at least that this game's somewhat competitive. Cavs obviously still one of the best teams in the league. 240-point total, though. Over on the Atlanta side of things, yeah, big bad news for Atlanta. Jalen Johnson's going to be out for the whole season. Torn labrum in his shoulder. That really, really sucks. They're definitely going to be sellers now at the deadline, I think. But Bogdan Bogdanovic, one of those guys who is on the trade block, is out. Clint Capella, another one, also on the block and injury report, excuse me. Other than that, pretty much nothing outside of the ordinary. No Cody Zeller. I don't think he's been with the team all year. But yeah, man, obviously Cleveland is a great defense, but at the same time, they play pretty quickly. This is one of the highest totals on the slate. I don't mind getting to some Atlanta here at low ownership. Obviously, not a good individual matchup for any of these guys. But yeah, I'm looking at a Kongu. I think he looks good. He's underowned. Trey, really hate the matchup, but at the same time, on a slate like this where there's not a ton to pay up for, sub 10% feels too low. But how are you handling the Hawks right now?
Yeah, I'm not getting to a ton of them on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, I think some of them are decent options. I'm getting to some Vit currently right now, and then
Mm.
like you mentioned, Trey. I think Trey's a pretty good GPP play, especially on FanDuel, where he's only 9,300, under 10% ownership. If they're going to keep it close, he's probably a big part of it.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see who they roll out as starters. I think most of the time we're going to see Krejci and Riacher. But against a big team like the Cavs, I wouldn't be shocked to see them go to Nance or even Gouye here. So that's just something to keep an eye on. Are you interested in any of these bench pieces? I think obviously Hunter's someone we could talk about. Decent play. The minutes have kind of been capped, which has been frustrating. Maybe that limit kind of comes up now with Johnson out for the year. But really nothing to base that on, just kind of wishful thinking. But yeah, are you interested in these guys? Do you think maybe they shake up the starting lineup? Personally, I don't know. It's really tough to project these lineups this year. I guess we just go with the regular Krejci reassure for now, but I wouldn't mind getting to Gouye if he started again. Nance, I mean, technically a revenge game for him. His minutes have been capped as well. I don't know. It's just tough to get to some of these bench guys, but you have to think one of them gets there. How are you handling this bench?
Yeah, if we do get Gouye starting again, I'll have a little bit of interest. I don't mind getting to Nance on FanDuel where he has power forward
Mhm.
eligibility. DraftKings, I think it's pretty tough to get there, but FanDuel
Agreed.
currently, I'm a little overweight on Nance.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. And again, it's just tough to project these minutes because Johnson just went down. They're still kind of working out these rotations. Gouye just became a rotational piece. Nance just came back from being hurt. So yeah, kind of a wait and see approach here is probably the best way to go. But it is a limited slate. I mean, looking at projected minutes, we have Trey at 36. Daniels, Krejci over 30. Everything else somewhat limited, but like I said, I do think a Kong was probably safe with Capella out. Over on the Cleveland side of things, taking a look, they are on a back to back, like I mentioned. Garland did get a rest day last night, which is probably good for him. No injury, really. Just wanted to get him a spell there. Karis LeVert's still out. No Isaac Okoro or Dean Wade either. So somewhat thin on the wing. Sam Merrill's going to be questionable. Yesterday was the Ty Jerome slate, right? We were on him all day. I stuck with him in a good amount of lineups. Came off a little bit when he wasn't in the starting lineup. Got to some of Jared Tyson there, but that obviously didn't work out too well. Jalen Tyson, excuse me. But yeah, tonight, I mean, all these guys, as far as starters go, look pretty damn good. I think Garland and Mitchell are both solid where they're priced. Probably one or the other goes off, but we did see the other night, I think it was a loss against Houston. They both got over 50 fantasy points, so we know they're capable. This is the type of matchup where maybe something like that could take place. Max Struess, too cheap, in my opinion, on DK. He's been heavily involved, closing more often than not as well, which we obviously love to see. He might be my favorite Cav here, but I wouldn't argue with anyone playing any of these starters. And then Jerome off the bench on DK, I think we could go right back to the well. But how you handling Cleveland? This is obviously an excellent spot.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jerome looks pretty solid. I'll be overweight on both sides. Just kind of that mid range. I guess you could call him a value play on this 5 game slate. I think he looks pretty solid. And then I like Darius Garland tonight. He's probably my favorite option just because he's fresh. I think they'll rely on him, and his minutes are probably the most stable.
Yeah, who's been? I know we don't want to dig too deep into these individual matchups, but who's been getting Daniels treatment when these guys play them? Is it usually Mitchell?
It should be
Because
Mitchell.
yeah, I mean, last time they played Atlanta, interestingly enough, Mitchell went for 50, and Garland went for, again, we're dealing with 1 game sample sizes. Like, we shouldn't look too deeply in this. He also went for 40. So, like, these guys should get there again. We don't want to dig too deeply into these individual matchups. They run screens, they run plays, they run pick and roll. There's a way for these guys to get open either way. But yeah, I don't think I have a preference between the two. I do like both. I do like that Garland had a rest day, so I'm with you on that. But yeah, man, I think just as much as I like Jerome, I do like Struess, though. Do you find yourself matching the field over under, even on FanDuel where he's 5,200? I know the price is kind of inflated, but I don't know. I kind of like him there at low ownership. Am I crazy for being heavy on Max Struess?
No, we have him for 29 minutes. I think that's pretty solid. He's been a little over that lately.
Mhm.
So I think he looks pretty good.
Nice, man. Okay, good, good. I'm glad you're on the same page with me on that one. But yeah, let's take a look at the chat here. We got Bop Boys here saying today is the day he takes down. Way to manifest him, man. I like that. I think you will have success this evening, as will everyone tuned into the stream. But let's get into the next game here at 7 o'clock. Another really interesting situation between the Lakers and the Wizards. So if AD was healthy, I think we'd be talking about potential blowout here. But the good news is he's not. He's out. Chuck famously kind of mushed him in Discord last night. AD started slow. Someone was tilting, and it was like, oh no, is he in the locker room? And Chuck was like, this narrative needs to stop. Everyone's saying these jokes about AD. He's been healthy. He's been tough all year. And sure enough, he went down right then. Got a feel for Chuck and his Lakers. But yeah, this is still a game the Lakers should be able to win. At the same time, I do kind of like having one of the stars out. It makes it more competitive. The biggest boost we've seen historically is going to go to Austin Reeves and LeBron James. They both look excellent here. Rui Hachimura, another guy who's probably going to see increased usage. I've been playing Christie even when this team's healthy. I do think the price is kind of inflated at this point. Not too excited to get to him. I do think he's at least worth mixing in. But yeah, we talked briefly before we went live. I'm kind of surprised Jackson Hayes isn't getting more love as the starting center here. He did play 33 minutes as a starter against Brooklyn, I think, a couple weeks ago. It's been a while since we've seen him in the starting lineup. Obviously, not a guy who can really trust the minutes. We have him for 25. If we're going to get 25 minutes of Jackson Hayes, I'm shocked he's only 10% owned on DK and 18 on FanDuel. How about you? And just follow that up, I guess, with your general take on these Lakers.
Yeah, like you, I think Jackson Hayes looks underowned, and then LeBron and Reeves look really good. And I also like getting to some Christie and Rui as well.
Nice, man. Yeah, and Gabe Vincent's out as well as Dorian Finney-Smith. They're both still in the bottle right now, so we're going to see a little bit of a boost to a lot of these guys. You can mix in a Dalton Connect if you're 150 maxer. Vanderbilt still kind of limited in minutes. Don't know that I would get there, but maybe Shake Milton. I don't know. That's probably a little bit too thin. Don't think he's necessary, but it does boost the likes of Hachimura, Christie. And like I said, man, I just can't really wrap my head around how low um, Jackson Hayes is owned right now. I do think we see that increase, but yeah, I'm sure we'll get questions about this team. We'll come back to this one. Lakers are definitely kind of a pivotal point of what we're doing tonight. On the other side of things, we do have the Wizards. getting a little bit healthier. Still no Bagley, Brogdon, or Bay though. And then Alexander Sarr is going to be out. So we did have Sarr out. I think it was last night. Yep. And everyone rushed to Joval. I thought it was a great play. He was a major disappointment though against Toronto. I don't really think we could call it anything other than that. Only 23 minutes, 15% usage. Kind of a floor game for his situation, but we're going to get him here starting again. I'm fine going back to the well. It looks like the field is getting there as well, though. Like, I kind of wish it was a few years ago, like before the field was so sharp and they'd overreact to one bad game out of Joval because this would be the spot of all spots. But yeah, it gets better with AD out. This isn't as bad of a matchup on paper as maybe it usually is. Poole coming off a terrible game. I'm fine mixing him in as well. All of this team is kind of coming off pretty poor performances. But Poole, Kuzma, Joval, even Koulibaly, I don't mind mixing in. Keyshawn George's price is up to a point now where I'm kind of hesitant to get there. He finally had a good shooting game. He's probably going to start again. I don't know, man. I just never see this guy hitting his ceiling, so I just have trouble getting to him if he's going to be owned at all. But doesn't look like the field's getting there. Excuse me. How are you handling Washington? Are you going back to the well on Joval, and what else are you liking here?
Yeah, I think Joval's pretty solid. I'm over the field right now on both sides, and I probably stay there if the slate were to lock now. I think Joval looks good. This is a better matchup for him. And then Poole, I think, looks better on DraftKings. Not really getting there too much on FanDuel. And then Kuzma's kind of a mix in on FanDuel for me. And then I have a little bit of Koulibaly and Kispert on FanDuel. Koulibaly looks better on DraftKings, but kind of a pretty decent team to target. And we're going to be playing a lot of Lakers. So I think getting to some Washington makes sense.
Yeah, man, I totally agree. I mean, we talk about sometimes we don't want to play too much in these early games, but honestly, these are two of the better games on the slate. I mean, we'll talk about Houston and Memphis in a little bit. I guess that's the third, but yeah, super high total Atlanta and Cleveland. Obviously, a pretty competitive match between the Lakers and Wizards here, where we're getting a lot of good value on LA. So can't really skip the early games tonight and wait for news. Not that there's all that much we're waiting on. I'll take a quick look at chat again, and then we will get into this 9 o'clock window. Thoughts on Kuzma? Yeah, Nick, we just touched on him. I think he's fine. He has a wide range of outcomes. Definitely a good tournament play. He feels a little bit cheap for what he's capable of, but at the same time, I mean, he's shown us that he has a floor as well. I like him in tournaments. Probably wouldn't be in the first line of my build. Just kind of tough to trust a player like that right now. Smitty, how about you? If you were playing a single entry tonight, do you think Kuz would be in it, or I guess how many lineups would it take for you to get to him?
I probably wouldn't play him in a single entry, but like a 20 max, I'd probably get there.
Yep. And Unicorn saying Joval went up 700. Yeah, man, I'm trying to talk myself into playing a lot of Jackson Hayes over there. It might burn me. But yeah, the price increase for Joval makes me a little bit more comfortable with that. At the same time, definitely not a play I'd be entirely fading. I do think he's still very appealing in terms of point per dollar. But let's go ahead and get into the 9 o'clock window now. We got the Timberwolves taking on the Jazz. Some pseudo revenge here between teams that have been trading over the past couple years. We got the Timberwolves on the road. Mike Conley listed as questionable. This is very significant, especially as Dante DiVincenzo is still sidelined. Really nothing else we need to talk about in terms of injuries for Minnesota. But yeah, man, if Conley is in, I think he's fine as value. Not that he's going to be spiteful for revenge or anything, but he did have some good years in Utah. I wouldn't mind. It wouldn't put it past him to kind of put on a little bit tonight in front of his old fans. Same with Rudy. I mean, he's a little bit too cheap for what he's capable of. And again, narratives aside, these guys are just a little bit cheap for what they're capable of. Anthony Edwards has been playing a lot better lately. For a while, it was because of the spacing of DiVincenzo, but I think that's really kind of built up his confidence. And a big part of that is just that Jaden McDaniels has kind of turned into this elite spacer, hitting multiple threes per game. Coming into the season, really just known as a defensive threat more than anything, but his offensive game has really ramped up this year. And Randall always goes overlooked. He's getting love today, but I think where he's priced, he's got upside. You know me, I love Nas Reed. I'll play him any slate. He was on the injury report. It seems like he's off it. I think the price is a bit prohibitive on him. Still fine mixing him in though on a limited slate. And then Alexander Walker's kind of the main talking point here. I think if Conley's in, you can still mix him in, but he's going to be way, way overowned. If Conley's out, then I would definitely want to be getting to some Alexander Walker. If Conley's in, man, do you feel like uh, Nas overowned? Because I kind of do. But I'm curious your take on these Timberwolves.
Yeah, I only have 10% nah right now on FanDuel. Not really getting there very much, but if Conley's out, I think he
Yeah.
becomes a better play. They've just shown that they want to run tight rotations, so whoever's in is going to play quite a bit. But yeah, it depends on the Conley news for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I honestly hope Conley's in and people still stick with Nog because they don't really have pivots. Like, we have really good value in those early games. I'd kind of rather go there. But obviously, if Conley's out, we're going to be scrambling to get some Alexander Walker into our lineups. Robert Dillingham, young point guard as well, could be someone you want to mix in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, for the almost same price, I would definitely rather play Alexander Walker. Is there anything else for Minnesota you're getting too heavily?
No, you mentioned Randall, and then I will say if Conley's out, I like Nas Reed even more. Like I
Mhm.
said, they're going to play their guys, and so however they can get Nas on the court, like whether that's running Ant at the point or whatever they need to do, Nas's minutes should see a pretty good bump.
Yep, he has played minutes alongside Gobert, so that wouldn't be out of the realm of outcomes. On the Utah side of things, they've been pretty banged up. They're getting a few guys back tonight, I think. Yeah, John Collins is back and available. He's someone on the trading block. Walker Kessler, Colin Sexton, both back and available. They missed last time. As far as significant injuries go, I mean, do we consider Juzang or Cody Williams significant? I'm not sure I do. But yeah, they're as healthy as they've been all season. And like we say, on many of these shows, whenever a team's fully healthy, usually they're not going to be great in DFS, especially if they've had recent injuries. All these guys feel a little bit overpriced. I mean, you can mix in, I don't know, Collins, Kessler, Markkinen, but coming off an injury, can you really trust their minutes? I don't know. And again, not the best matchup against Minnesota. As far as the backcourt goes, I mean, if Collier starts, I don't mind him as value. But with Clarkson, George, and Sexton all healthy, there is a world where his minutes are seriously capped. So I'm not getting to anything from Utah right now. A little bit scary, but how about you?
Yeah, I'm hardly getting to any. I'd almost be fine just crossing this team out.
Mhm.
They're trying to lose games, and like you said, there's been so many injuries, and now they're pretty much fully healthy, so they're just priced accordingly.
Yeah, man, it's tough. If some of these guys start to get discounted, I could see going to them. Collins, I mean, 6,400 on DK earlier in the year, that'd be really appealing. But again, he's been out a few games. Don't know that we can expect him to push 30 minutes here. Let's go ahead and get right into this 9:30 game. Another pretty appealing spot in terms of upside. Uh, Rockets taking on the Grizzlies, 237 point total. Projects to be pretty competitive. Let's start with Houston. I know we're still waiting on some John Morant news. But yeah, on the Houston side of things, Steven Adams questionable. Alperen Sengun also questionable. Still no Jabari Smith Jr. I think I saw a note earlier that Sengun went through shoot arounds. Did you catch that one? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll run a quick search. I think it's worth taking the minute. Yeah, he did participate in shoot around. So while Sengun is questionable, I do think he's going to be able to play. Amon Thompson was a huge disappointment last game. I'm fine going back to the well. It was pretty funny. Chuck and I were really like tooting his horn on the show, and we're like, point per dollar, he's a better play than like Jokic, Wemby, etc. I mean, they all kind of busted, so it wasn't the worst take ever. But when he came out and just didn't shoot at all that first half, it was pretty tough to have him in almost all of our lineups in a great matchup against Atlanta. Fine going back to the well with him. I really like him a lot. Probably my favorite Rocket here once again. Fred Van Fleet feels a little bit too cheap, not always taking shots. Again, this is one of these teams, it's kind of like the Celtics almost, where they have guys, Green, Van Fleet, Thompson, Sengun. Any night, one of these guys could really go off 40, 50 fantasy points, but you're not going to know which one it is. I think more often than not, it's going to be Thompson. He's been leading the team in usage. But like we saw the other night, he's going to have off nights where it's going to be someone else. I like this team. I don't know that I want to plant a flag in any play individually more than the others. I'll say right now it's probably Thompson for me. Wouldn't argue with any of the starters here. Obviously, Brooks is on a tier below the other four. But how are you handling Houston, man? It is a really good spot.
It is a Dylan Brooks revenge game. Uh,
Mm,
but now I'm getting
that's
to
true.
a ton of Houston for me, man. Just such a good game environment, and they've shown in good game environments specifically they're willing to play their guys 40 minutes plus, especially Amon Thompson. I think
Mhm.
his minutes are probably under projected around the industry, so I think he's a pretty solid play with good positional eligibility. And then Fred VanVleet on FanDuel, just probably a little too cheap, but he definitely has a floor. Minutes will be there. And then one guy I'm pretty interested in is Tari Eason coming back on FanDuel. I like him, 5,600. Kind of fills a need for that power forward, small forward. And they should be running pretty tight here. So I think his minutes should be good.
Yeah, I had a really bad take too lastly where I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to play Jay Sean Tate even with Eason out or whoever was out. And Tate had his best game of the year, maybe last 2 years, played 25 minutes, which has been more than 365 days since we've seen that from him. But I'm with you, man. I do think Eason's the better power forward play, even coming off the bench. But like I said, I'd rather go to the starters. Thompson's definitely my favorite, but I'll be mixing in a lot of this team. But again, it's tough to know night to night who's it going to be. I do think Thompson for now is probably the guy, even coming off a bad game. On the Memphis side of things, Ja is still questionable, so this is obviously massive news. Something we need to keep an eye on. Zach Edey is available. Marcus Smart and Vince Williams still out, so nothing too significant there. I think Jaw plays. I mean, this is a primetime game. This does feel like the type of spot he'd probably want to get up for, taking on his former teammate, et cetera, et cetera. I'm kind of going to assume he's in. I think if he is in, he looks pretty solid. Again, he's been capped around 30 minutes. He's shown us he could still get there in that time, though, so I don't mind him. I think regardless of whether he's in or out, Bane looks pretty solid here. And then if he is out, Jaren Jackson, who is pretty much solid regardless, is going to look good. But then Luke Kennard would probably become my favorite play on the slate. But again, I tend to think Ja plays. So I don't really want to spend too many roster spots on value for Memphis. I'd rather maybe pay up for some Bane, Jackson. But how are you handling the Grizzlies?
Yep, that's about exactly where I'm at. I think Triple J is probably my favorite from here. Don't mind mixing Morant or Bane in. And then, like on a small slate, if you're playing 150, you get to some Brandon Clark and Santi Aldama and kind of hope they hit a ceiling.
Yep. Yeah, Aldama's had some big games. Clark's still getting 15 to 20 minutes per night. So if you're scraping for value, not bad. I will say, I wish Greg Jackson was getting more minutes. I think he's better than all these front court guys that they have out there, other than Jackson and Edie. But yeah, he's kind of buried on the depth chart right now. So fingers crossed, Greg Jackson starts to get more minutes. Until he does, can't really play him. But yeah, definitely a great game environment here. Going to be a fun one to watch too between Houston and Memphis. Let's take a look over at chat. We got Franz or Mobley here. Torian Franz still kind of working back from an injury. I don't know that he's limited. I would lean Mobley. How about you, Smitty?
That's
Franz.
pretty close for me. I think you could just flip a coin, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the model has Mobley with an 11.5. Franz is, I think, a bit lower. Yeah, I mean, the model likes Mobley a lot more. Again, I think if Franz was definitely getting his full minutes, it would be closer to the coin flip. But how many do we have him for? I think he's just 2 or 3 games removed from injury. 32, so it's not like he's really capped. I slightly prefer Mobley, but yeah, I mean, keep it on the ownership. If your lineup's super chalky, Franz is a pretty good pivot there. Unicorn thinks Conley plays. Sort of saying non time. Yeah, man. Like I said, I don't love him if Conley's in, but if he's out, definitely one of the best plays on the slate. Power here with a pun of the day. Jackson Hayes a trap. I call him Jackson Haynes because you're nuts if you play him and he's ass. I mean, I don't know if that's your best work, Power. You've had some better puns over the past few weeks. But yeah, man, I mean, if he was super chalky, and I'll refresh. If he was super chalky, I would kind of agree with you. But at the same time, when no one wants to play this guy, like he's been up to like 2 points per minute at times. Not necessarily this season, but starting at center the past couple of seasons, like only 13% owned on DK. I think he's under owned for what he's capable of, and it's more kind of a tournament play than anything. Best value power forward. Smitty, you got any off the top of your head? I can check the model as well.
Uh, let's see.
I mean, Rui's way up there. Um,
Yeah, I like that.
yeah, we got Rui. Not crazy about Vanderbilt. We mentioned Clark. I think he's fine. Eason's another one. Kind of
Yeah.
depends what you consider value. Ruby's probably the best of the group. Um, with that being said, Power's got 8% haze. Yeah, he's that type of play, man. Like, he's got a crazy ceiling. He's going to fail a lot, but if he's not chalk, I'm willing to take the risk. Eamon Thompson, birthday legacy game. Yeah, coming off that bad game, maybe they told him to save his shots for today. So I'm with you, Swerve. Definitely going to be loading up on Eamon. Who gets back up minutes at center for Washington? I think it's Rashawn Holmes.
Yeah.
Let me check the depth chart. Yeah, you think it's Holmes as well? I know they have
Yeah.
Vucevic available. But
Vukovic plays blowout, basically.
yeah,
That's his
yeah. So
role.
it's Rashawn Holmes. Definitely Holmes. And again, Jovel kind of had that bad game against Toronto. Toronto ran small a lot of the times. Like when Poto wasn't on the floor, they had some Scotty at the five. I think they tried a few other weird things. So I tend to think this is a better spot for Jovel. Torian thinks Braun might sit. Yeah, the good news is this is a 7 o'clock game. Um, I don't know. With AD out, they do need to win games. I mean, I think they could beat Washington without him. This isn't the worst spot, but yeah, man, I don't know. And Power, I'm not saying to tone them down. I love the puns, but usually some are smoother. Like that one, a little clunky. The two puns in one player, I think that's tough. I like the one for ones, but enough about that. Let's get into the next game here. We got Orlando and the Portland Trailblazers finishing up this slate. This is a 10 p.m. game. On the Orlando side of things, another team that's getting healthier. Gary Harris probable, Jalen Suggs questionable, but yeah, they recently got Franz back. They got Suggs is questionable, but I'm thinking he's going to be back. We already talked about Franz a bit. Goga just came back from concussion protocol, which is going to cut into Wendell Carter. I like Paulo. I really like Paulo here. I think he is no longer limited at all. I think Franz is kind of capped between 32, 34. Not that he usually gets over that anyway. But yeah, Paulo Banchero, one of my favorite tournament plays tonight. I like having that flexibility, using some salary in this late game too. And I feel better about him than anything on either side of this one. What's your take on Banchero, Smitty? And are you getting to much else from Orlando?
Yeah, I think Paolo and Franz both look pretty good. I like Paolo more just because of the minutes upside there. And then I'm getting to some Goga as well. I think Goga's a decent GPP play on FanDuel where he has power forward eligibility. And then KCP is going to play a lot of minutes. And on a small slate, I don't hate taking shots at 4,400 on FanDuel.
Yeah, KCP definitely going to play a lot of minutes. If he does get hot, obviously he has upside. Hasn't been shooting the ball that well, but it's yeah. You chase those high upside outcomes. That's how you win tournaments. And Smitty, honestly, you've been winning more than pretty much any of us these past few weeks. So maybe KCP is the key this evening. On the Portland side of things, yeah, Jeremy Grant is questionable. That's news to me. I didn't know that coming into this one. I think he plays, but again, I'm just getting this news for the first time right now. Kind of surprised by it, catching me off guard. Admittedly, I like Denny here. I'm fine getting some Denny, mixing in Simons. Tumani Kamara, since he's moved to shooting guard, because Grant has been healthy and Denny's staying in the starting lineup, he's been really solid. But if Grant's out, I think Kamara is still going to start. They're probably going to move Shady on Sharp in the starting lineup, but that's going to force Grant to play wing and in the paint more than he is just off ball as a scorer. So kind of a tricky situation. If Grant's in, I like Kamara and Denny. If Grant's out, I really, really like Denny, but it's probably going to take me off Kamara in a weird way. How are you handling Portland right now? Not the best matchup at all. This game, I think, is the lowest total, definitely has the lowest total on the slate. Just a 212-point total compared to some others with really high upside. So, are you getting too much Portland?
Not a ton, no. I think Kamara looks pretty decent. I always don't mind getting there. And then Simons as a GPP play is okay. If Grant's out, I like getting to a little bit of Scoot or Shaden Sharp, whoever starts there. That's pretty much it. I like Denny a little bit more if Grant sits.
Yeah, I'm with that, man. Yeah, Denny's been solid, but I think he won that starting job with Grant out, and he kind of took Sharp's job with those minutes. So yeah, Aiton's coming off two really good games, but against two really big teams. Shouts out to Douche, one of our regulars in Discord. He likes to talk about how Aiton is tough to trust against kind of smaller teams. With smaller bigs, and Orlando doesn't really qualify as like a huge team to me. So I will say, kind of proceed with caution on an Aiton, but at the same time, he's unowned. So if you're chasing upside, probably not something to fade necessarily. If he was popular, I'd be pretty bullish on just not playing him. But Yeah, looks like no one is. So, talking about it in probably too much, more than necessary for sure. Let me refresh the news here. I'll take another look at chat. And yeah, we got plenty of time today, man. We go ahead and do a dummy bill. So, Sam Merrill is back for the Cavs. I don't think that changes much. It could cut into Ty Jerome's minutes slightly. Is Sam Merrill's availability doing anything for you, Smitty?
No, I'd already built with him in, so I'll probably stay about where I'm at.
Nice, man. Yeah, I mean, he is dirt cheap. He has some upside, but super scoring dependent. Not crazy about it. Yeah, I'd really like Struce. I don't think that changes for me. Let's check chats. Yeah, Braun sits, man. We're definitely gonna have to mix some things up. All right. No questions, guys. Feel free to get them in though. While we go through this dummy, we'll definitely get to anyone after the fact. Where are we starting tonight, man? I guess it's probably the Lakers. I'm thinking Reeves, maybe Braun.
Yeah, probably both of them, or at least one of them.
Yeah, I against the Wizards, I have trouble avoiding them. Honestly, Rui too. I think. But are you fine with three Lakers, or is that OD?
No, I think it's fine. Probably play like Joval or Poole though.
Yeah, I definitely want to go Joval. I think so. Let's go ahead. Where is he? Yeah, he's cheaper than I even thought. So yeah, I like this. We got Rui, James Reeves, run it back with Joval. Still left with 5K per
Oh,
player.
we just got Jaw doubtful.
Jaw is now doubtful.
That's
Okay, well
crazy.
that is crazy. Well, that tells me right now I want Luke Kennard. Um, Pretty confident in that. I mean, what else do we have to prioritize now? Definitely Bane, maybe JJJ.
Yeah, Triple J.
Yeah, Triple J I like a lot. We might have to. Oh, he's cheap on DK, man. Let's see here. So we're probably only going to be able to play one or two out of these three: James, Reeves, Bane. I'm okay with where we're at. I mean, there is a discount if we come off of Reeves for Bane. I don't know. How you feeling about those groups? I'm trying to iron this out in my head as we just got
That's
this news.
tough.
Uh, I mean, LeBron, what's he like? If he gets 60, it's probably not going to kill us. Um, I'm thinking Bane.
Yeah, I like that.
And then, is there anything else from Memphis we really want? Like I said, I absolutely love Kennard here. He might be my highest on play, and I don't. I think he's going to start. Even if he doesn't, I prefer him over Pippen. That's just been the trend. Um, I don't know. Jalen Wells, he's a boost. I'd love to get to Amon Thompson. I don't know if we can.
Yeah, I would like that too. Wells seems fine at only 4K.
Yeah, Wells isn't a bad play at 4K. This is interesting though. So we go to Thompson. We're left with min price at power forward. This probably isn't going to work, is it? Um, Patrick Baldwin. No. Yeah, that's not going to work unless maybe we go Jackson at power forward. Let's see if that opens anything up. I don't know that there's any 3K flat plays worth playing. Uh, yeah, man, we might just have to go a little bit more balanced. So
Yeah, it
where
looks
do we go
thin.
next? I mean, I think I like Thompson more than Bain. Are you with me?
Yeah, I do.
Especially if we have JJJ. Okay, so that puts us here. Reeves, Kennard, Rui, Jackson, Joe Valdo. Like I love all these plays, just no matter what we do now. I mean, I don't mind the Nas price. I don't really think he's a core play. Tricky. Any thoughts as or value, like or even anything 5 to 6K range that you're really liking? I mean, we could play another center. That's
Yeah,
usually the
I
way to
like
go.
uh, I like Eason, but I don't know what that gets us.
I like Eason. That might get us to a Connell. Though. I was thinking maybe that's the move. Not quite. 56. Gobert against Utah. That's not bad.
Yeah,
That's pretty clean right there. I like that. But yeah, I'm sure we're getting some questions now with this news. Here we go, Swerve. Smitty, two FanDuel locks. And don't worry, you won't be in your contest.
it kind of just changed. Let me pull up my FanDuel real quick,
You got it.
just so I can look at Memphis. I would say
Yes.
Kennard for sure. Jaren Jackson's pretty close, but definitely Kennard. And then That's tough, man. Put me on the spot. Kennard and like if I was just making one lineup, it'd probably be Kennard and Jovel.
Yeah, I'm with it, man. I think Reeves on FanDuel too looks tremendous, sub 8K. On DK 8,500, probably a little bit easier to fade maybe. And yeah, right there, I am the guy saying looks tough for Reeves paying off that 8,500 tag. Yeah, man, he's gone for 50 plus in some of these games with LeBron now. It'll be interesting to see without AD. And Londo, I think we kind of answered this as we built. We do really like Rudy here. Definitely a good night for double center if you can find the plays. Bane is going to get Jalen Green defense home off him with JJG. Is Jalen Green the type of defender we're avoiding? Like, I've never really thought that
No,
personally. Yeah, man. I power. I don't know, man. I think
I
we're
think he's
maybe.
trolling.
Yeah, like I take everything you say so seriously out of respect, but man, I don't know. Definitely love Bane.
The
And
ones
yeah, no, go ahead.
the ones you wouldn't want to see is Amon Thompson or Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, and again, it's positionless basketball. It's 2025. Yeah, Funky McDaniel's been playing out of his mind. Like he's going to come back down to earth at some point. But if you've been playing him and having success playing him, ride the wave. That's kind of how I kind of think about these things. Like if you're playing a guy every night, he's crushing and his price is climbing. Just keep playing him. But if you haven't been playing him and you want to jump on the McDaniel's train at 6K, it's a little bit scary to me. Are you getting too much McDaniel's, Smitty?
Yeah, I'm the one that I've been riding the
Yeah, you
McDaniel's
have.
train, and
Yes.
yeah, I'll just keep going back there. I mean, good positional eligibility, kind of a tough price, but he's going to play a ton of minutes as long as he stays out of foul trouble.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, the data started to update. Jalen Wells is now the top value play on FanDuel. He looks good. He's scoring dependent, though. We've seen him have 4 games with Morant out. I'm curious the minutes we're giving Kennard. Only 22 right now. I don't think that's right. I think he has to play more than that personally. And he's been a beast point per minute. Yeah, 26 minutes against Charlotte, went for 40. A couple games with Jaw out, I think against the Spurs, 29, 26. He's been a beast with Jaw out of the lineup. So I think these minutes have to come up on Kennard a little bit. We'll keep an eye on the model. All the more reason to check the links in the description below. Sign up. You get access to the model. You get access to a lineup builder if you're trying to play multiple lineups. You get access to the Discord. We have Chuck in there in 7 minutes talking you up until lock. So every day after the show, we do have someone in there taking individual questions, talking through any additional updates. As obviously lineups come out later than the show goes sometimes. So Google giving me pop-ups, trying to sell me Lens or whatever. But yeah, man. Any last thoughts on this slate? I think we've kind of crushed information as far as we can. Even Memphis, man. I do think we see Kennard start. Like I said, even if it's Pippen, I prefer Kennard personally. But yeah, any thoughts on that? And just, I guess, any overall thoughts on the slate?
Yeah, I would assume Kennard starts as well. He has the past 2 times. And he's played well. I mean, you wouldn't expect like big minutes because it's Memphis, but at least 25, 28 minutes, I think, is pretty strong. And then if you wanted to pivot or you just needed another value, I don't hate playing Scotty, but definitely not a priority like Kennard is to me.
Awesome, man. Totally with you. One last look for questions here. Yeah, Rudy and Randall together. I think it's fine. Any thoughts on that, Smitty? I don't think
No,
there's too much correlation there.
I think
Yeah,
that's
Rudy's
good.
cheap enough. Yeah, they're cheap enough right now. Like if they were both 1K more, I'd say no. But yeah, I think we're good to go. Yeah, once again, thanks everyone. I definitely appreciate you tuning in. Like the channel, subscribe. Check the links for our Twitters too. Feel free to give us a follow. I'm always happy to answer any questions there as well. But appreciate it, guys. Hope to see you at the top of the leaderboards tonight. Have fun and good luck.